Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is the Ladder Safety Symposium, and this is Ladder Safety Month. So hopefully you all know that, but March is Ladder Safety Month. And to kick that off, we decided that we should work with some other folks to get the word out on ladder. So we are hosting this Ladder Safety Symposium to get some information out on ladder safety. It's something we all know is a major hazard. We're going to learn about those facts today. I think we have an interesting agenda for you, and I'm really happy to be able to present this. My name is Bob Braun. I'm with the University of Texas at Arlington OSHA Education Center. And we have a cast of people here, I think, that will give you a good overview of ladder safety today. So we represent, in conjunction with the American Ladder Institute that we put this on, and with our regional OSHA office, and you'll hear from all those, as well as TEXO, which is the largest construction safety group in the state, I guess. And they're going to have some presentation on some real life issues. So I think we'll see, you know, the side from the ladder production side, ladder safety issues, and then also from the practical side, what some things are on ladder safety that we've seen, and then from OSHA on some experience that we've had. So with that, I just want to introduce, maybe? Okay. I want to introduce our first speaker. And our first speaker comes to us from the American Ladder Institute. He is the president of the American Ladder Institute. He is also the CEO for Little Giant Ladder Systems, and his name is Ryan Moss. And for over 3 decades, Ryan's career has centered around ladders. So he spends much of his time traveling throughout the country, meeting and training people on ladder safety. And we are very happy and proud to have him here to kick off this meeting on ladder safety, our Ladder Safety Symposium today. So this is our agenda, and without further ado, I'm going to key up Ryan Moss. Please welcome Ryan Moss.
Well, good morning. We're grateful for the opportunity to be here today to kick off National Ladder Safety Month. Before we get started, I want to make sure that we have recognized those who are responsible for helping to bring this event together. Let me make sure is our clicker working here? It's loading. So, but I'll go ahead and read these. I want to make sure we don't have an Oscar moment and give the recognition to the wrong people. But Judy Stevenson Ortiz, Jack Rector, Basil Singh, Todd Holtz, Shane Morrow, Scott Sears, and Bob Braun. I want to thank each of you for the efforts that you've put together in making sure that we were able to launch this National Ladder Safety Month. Also like to thank Region 6 OSHA and TEXO, as well as the University of Texas at Arlington OSHA Educational Center. I think it's fitting that we're kicking this off at National Ladder Safety Month at an OSHA training center. Last year, I went to the Department of Labor and met with the senior leadership of OSHA and was invoking their response and their thoughts based on the idea of having a National Ladder Safety Month. They wholeheartedly supported the idea and wanted to know right off the bat how could they help, what could they do, and have been great at helping to publicize and also share with many that they have influence with about National Ladder Safety Month and some of the things that can be done. I learned something about OSHA while I was there, and most to the outside world, a lot of people feel like OSHA would be similar to maybe the town police officer that hides behind the certain bend or the tree and just waiting for people to come along speeding so that he can meet his speeding ticket quota. But what I learned is OSHA is something completely different than that. I would compare what I learned, the good folks at OSHA, to the highway patrolman that pulls over at 2 a.m. in the morning to help somebody change a tire so that they can get home at night. And I want you to know that this is particularly meaningful to me after I was able to understand a little bit more about the real OSHA and not maybe the perception, that having this event kicked off here I think is absolutely fitting. A couple of years ago, I was finishing a business trip back east, and as I was entering the airplane that I was going to fly home on, I was particularly taken back at how hot it was inside the airplane. It was a hot summer day, but this was really unseasonably warm inside of the airplane. I put my luggage away, got in my seat, fiddled with my personal air conditioning unit that's the size of your pinky, and trying to direct the air right on my face, but to no avail. It was warm. The flight attendant came on the intercom system and asked all of those who were sitting next to the windows to pull the window shades down to keep the sun from shining in, because they were trying to do everything they could to cool down the cabin of the airplane. The last thing I remembered, I was particularly tired. I'd been up early that day, and with the heat, I was starting to fall asleep, and I remember the airplane kind of jolting as it began to back away from the gate. And I felt like I had slept for quite some time when I was awakened by silence, which is really odd on an airplane. As you all know, when you travel, airplanes are quite noisy. I looked up, the fan above me wasn't blowing anymore, and it was relatively dark other than some illuminated strips in the airplane. And shortly after that, there was an audible alarm and a flashing strobe light that began to flash inside of the airplane. Within a few seconds, the captain came on the intercom system and said, "Folks, this is your captain speaking. That warning that you are hearing is an indication that we have lost all power. We ask that you stay in your seats with your seatbelts fastened, and we will do everything within our control to restore the power as quickly as possible." I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like this, but your mind begins to work so fast that everything appears to be in slow motion, and that was the case for me. Every movement seemed to be very slow. Now, perhaps I've flown quite a bit, and I've often wondered, what would this be like? And now I was in this situation. How would people behave? And I guess I had imagined it would be anything from screaming to praying and anything in between there. But this was different. This was, maybe I've watched one too many airplane movies, but this was completely different. Everybody was somber. They were just sitting there, absolute silence. I began to think about things that were important to me, my family, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, friendships, things that were particularly meaningful. It wasn't but a few minutes later, over my left shoulder, a couple of rows back, I noticed somebody raising the window shade. And I turned and looked, and as they raised the window shade, it became very, very clear to me the gravity of the situation we were in. We were still on the ground. Now, I share that story with you because most stories don't end that way. Most of them have some type of tragedy that is associated with it. In this case, most of this happened in my mind. Even though it was a true story, it was made out to be worse in my mind than things really, really were. But unfortunately, in the latter world, there are a lot of injuries and a lot of stories that we hear that just do not end with this same type of happy ending. To begin, maybe we can talk a little bit about the history of ladders. I don't know if this is... it's not working?
Yep,
Okay.
it's working. It's working.
We'll get this to come up, but Ladders have been around a long time. If you think about it, the ladder was invented before the wheel. I don't know, but some would guess that maybe Adam and Eve used a ladder to get the fruit. But it is one of the oldest commodities on earth. If you look at this photo of this ladder, this is a really old ladder. But the interesting thing about it is they haven't changed much. 2 side rails, rungs. Sure, it's probably strapped together with some rawhide or something like that. But ladders have not changed a bunch. So what is the issue? What are we dealing with ladders? As mentioned, I'm representing the National Ladder Safety Month, a group that's brought together of ladder manufacturers, also suppliers to the ladder manufacturing group. It's called the American Ladder Institute, and this group has a mission, and their mission is to help create and maintain the standards for ladder for the ladder category, and also their mission is to provide training and the proper selection, care, and safe use of ladders. We recognize that there are problems in the ladder industry, that far too many injuries and accidents. And so National Ladder Safety Month has been created to bring an awareness to the situation that exists in the ladder community. So you might say, why? Why National Ladder Safety Month? Today, 2,000 people are going to be injured in a ladder accident in America. And today, 100 of those people will be permanently disabled. And today, somebody is going to pass because of a ladder accident. These numbers are staggering. They're somewhat embarrassing to be part of an industry that has statistics such as this. Yes, those numbers are going to happen today, and while we're here in this meeting today, a couple hundred people will be injured in ladder accidents. But it doesn't have to be that way. This can change. So, what is the deal with ladders? What's the problem? Often, people think of things that they've seen on YouTube. Perhaps the ridiculous. We've seen all kinds of things on the internet and on YouTube where people are doing things that are maybe silly. We also see things where we have these funny GIFs showing people doing things that are intended to be funny. Now, in this case, I have to believe that this was actually real. I don't think this was staged. They are wearing their safety protective gear and their boots. The interesting thing about this, and some may joke at the caption of how much does it cost to change a light bulb, it's not the labor that's the cost. It's the potential injury to those that are using the ladder. Obviously, they're using the wrong ladder in this case. If you notice, there's a woman coming up a staircase in this shot here, and as she comes up this staircase, it makes the problem a little bit worse than what you initially may look at, and that is that if they were to fall, they potentially could go down the staircase. But worse than that, what if something were to happen and they were to hit her? The cost of changing a light bulb now skyrockets. In fact, she potentially could own the company they work for. That's how serious this is. Often we see things that are real, not staged, but are tragic and avoidable. We have a little video here that I apologize, but it is a little bit graphic showing what can happen. That happened in September this past year. Very unfortunate. Real people doing real things. Now that one could have been avoided. I might share just a few experiences that have been shared with me. We had a general contractor who came to our facility. He did a plant tour, went through our showroom, and at the end of that, he shared with me a story of his best friend who was transitioning from a ladder to a roof, and in the process he stepped from the ladder to the roof. And if any of you have ever done this before, that is one of the scariest things you can do on a ladder, maybe coming back from the roof to the ladder, but he went one way and the ladder went the other way. He fell to his death. Tragic and unfortunate. But worse than that, he had a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old daughter who are now being raised by a single mother without a father. Their lives have been impacted forever. I had another safety professional come from Big D Construction, come to our facility. Same thing, went through a tour, went through the product room, and as he was leaving the building, he says, I just have to share a story with you. He'd been a safety professional for 30 years. Now, you have to envision this man. He had a big, burly beard, mustache. He looked a little bit like one of the Hells Angels bikers. But as he shared a story, tears rolled down his face. He said one of his co-workers, they had just finished a job, taken down some scaffolding and everything, and it was all done. They noticed one thing up high that needed to be fixed. And so they grabbed a ladder, quickly set it up, and this gentleman went up the ladder. As he went up the ladder, they had forgotten that there was a little bit of sawdust on the ground, just not even paying attention, and the ladder slipped out from underneath him. Now, as he shared this story and tears rolling down his face, the burden, you could tell the burden that he carried even years later. He shared of standing outside of this gentleman's hospital room while he lay in intensive care, standing in the hall and watching this man's wife walk towards him. And he said it felt like her eyes were just looking right through me. And she got to me and she started pounding on my chest, just pounding, saying, "This is your fault. This is your responsibility. This is your job to make sure these kind of things don't happen." The burden that these safety officers carry is enormous. It doesn't just end when they clock out at the end of the day. This one was particularly more meaningful to him for the fact that the gentleman laying in the hospital bed was his friend. They had been to each other's homes, barbecued, watched sporting events. They were friends, and yet he was carrying this burden. I received a phone call a few years ago by a safety professional in the cable industry. My assistant had come and tracked me down and said, "I think you need to take this call." And I got on the phone, and it was Lou Viteri. And Lou said, "Ryan, we've just had a tragic ladder accident. 26-year-old young man that works for me. He's engaged to be married. He just fell to his death in a ladder accident." And I could tell he broke up. And there was a long pause. And Lou said, "Ryan, can you help me to never have that happen again?" These types of accidents are happening every single day. You know this. Many of you deal with these types of things. There's far too many of them. And safety professionals are carrying a burden that they should not have to. So when we think about ladders and ladder accidents, we have to step back and look at what are the problems, so we know what to address. What are the things that we're facing? Our first one that we're going to address today is strains and sprains from carrying ladders. Now, that may not seem like a big deal. Think, okay, what's the big deal in carrying an extension ladder? And extension ladders typically are the ones that cause the most amount of injury and pain. But this is a leading cause of ladder accidents. Now, what happens? Shoulder injuries, you have torn rotator cuffs, herniated discs, knees and ankles that tear ligaments and tendons. And you might say, well, why is that? When you think about it, especially those that are in the cable industry or telecom industry, those that are taking them on and off of a truck many times a day. If you take a ladder that traditionally has weighed 75 pounds, and a 28-foot ladder is what most of them use, and you can close it down to its shortest length, it's still at 14 feet. And so if you're taking that off of a van and you have 75 pounds that's stretched out 14 feet, you have forces working against you that are just not natural. Then you carry that item to an area where you're going to set it up, and you tip it up, and you set it up and do your work. And when you're done, you're going to bring it back down and put it back on the van, and then go to a new area, and you're going to do this over and over again during the day. Carrying accidents can be avoided. Now, there's a couple things that can be done. Training, right? Proper lifting techniques can go a long way in helping to reduce these. But I'm also happy to tell you that the industry is changing. Those ladders that for years and years and years have weighed 75 pounds are now on a weight loss program. Companies in the industry have begun doing their research and innovating ways to be able to take weight out of the product without reducing its weight rating, the amount of weight it's able to carry. So you have ladders now that range anywhere from these same 28-foot ladders that range anywhere from 50 pounds to 65 pounds, depending on the company who's manufacturing it. So there's progress being made. And I'm happy to tell you that we have had reports from companies that have seen 30 to 35% reduction as they've been moving these ladders through attrition of these new ladders, but 30 to 35% reduction in ladder accidents. And so good things are happening that way. Next, what we see is something that's very common, and that is choosing. Often people are choosing the wrong ladder for the job. In the case of this slide, you see people that should have had a ladder much taller than the one that they're using, and what they're going to experience should they have a ladder accident is not just one individual, but two individuals involved in a ladder accident. Choosing the wrong ladder is very, very common. There's a number of reasons that this happens. Part of it is the fact that we have just some human nature that takes place. Some of people may have been issued the wrong equipment, or they did something that we often do, which is grab something that is the most convenient. It doesn't just end with extension ladders or A-frame ladders. We have people that should be choosing a staircase ladder. In this case, fortunately for the man in the red shirt, the guy in the blue shirt is touching the ladder. It makes everything better. Nothing's going to happen since the guy in the blue shirt is touching the ladder. Now, we all know better than that. In fact, I've heard of numerous policies where companies have enacted these policies where if somebody's climbing a ladder, somebody down below is supposed to be touching the ladder. I'm still not exactly sure what that does. If it gives somebody some comfort, okay, but what you're doing is inviting somebody else to get hurt in the process of a fall when you have somebody else standing below. often the person down below gets distracted, they're looking around, they're really not even paying attention to what's going on. So there again, choosing the right ladder is so critical. We find people that should have had ladders that are taller, and so what do? They put them, stack them on other objects to gain that height. Sometimes those objects have wheels, and those objects, of course, make it even much more difficult for you to work in a safe situation. Finally, well, let me talk about this slide. Of all the slides I've ever seen in foolishness on ladders, this happens to be my absolute favorite, but also the most perplexing. And mostly because I have a lot of questions of why. First of all, why were they using this ladder? Why were they so far away from the work they were doing? Why is the guy that's standing on the very top of the ladder in his socks, and the guy that's standing on him in his shoes? What are they doing? Now, these are all questions that will never be answered, but these types of things, when we see these, we know, of course, they are asking for a ladder accident. But there again, what was the problem? Essentially choosing the wrong ladder for the job. None of this would have ever have to have been had they chosen the right ladder. The last one that we see, and this one is really quite often, and that is using a ladder that's typically an A-frame ladder that is much too short for the individual job that they're trying to do. And so what happens? They're going to move up on a step that holds a sticker that says, what is the role of that rung that holds the sticker? That's its role, just to hold a sticker that says, do not stand on or above this rung. It has absolutely no other purpose. And yet we know that people will stand on that, and that becomes what? A gateway to the top cap. Ladders are not designed for people to stand on the top cap or the top rung for that matter. They should not be used in that manner. They become very unstable when you get your weight that high above them, and of course lots of ladder accidents happen because of this very thing. Now you might ask, why is it with all of the product that's out there, why is it that people do this? Why are they choosing the wrong ladder? Why are people standing on the top rung and top cap when they've been told not to? We know that the culprit is human nature. So products are designed to be used a certain way. In this slide you see there's a sidewalk, and as you get to the barrier in the sidewalk, you're supposed to go through the horseshoe and then cross the road. That's the design. To the right you see what I like to call the path of least resistance. And you can see a very worn path here, and this is where you have the difference between the way something was designed and the way something was used. There is a very, very worn path here. So let's talk about that, those A-frame ladders, or those ladders where people are standing on the top rung or the top cap. Why does that happen? We've all seen it before. We see lots of vans or trucks out there that have a 12-foot ladder, a 10-foot ladder, 8-foot ladder, 6-foot ladder. They're all stacked high on there. You see those every single day. So when you get to the job site, let me ask you this. Which ladder are they going to take in? Are they going to dig down to the bottom and take the longest one to make sure they're covered? Why? Why are they not going to do that? We are inherently lazy as a people. I'm pointing at myself when I say that. We're always going to look for the path of least resistance. Which one weighs the least amount? The shortest one. So what are we going to do? We're going to grab the one on top. It's the easiest to get to. And we're going to haul it in. And we haul it in and we go about our work. Now we find out that the ladder that we have is not tall enough. What are we going to do? We're going to march back out to the van and get another one? What happens, right? We've got that top rung that says do not stand on or above here, but hey, it looks like all of the rest of the rung. Why can't I stand there? And it becomes the gateway to the top again. And so, naturally, because of human nature, we're going to move up and do something that we shouldn't do. Now, I suspect, and I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands, but many of you in this room who all know better have maybe even done this yourself. Perhaps we have. Why is that? It's not because we haven't been trained. It's because of our human nature. Using a ladder on unlevel surfaces, OSHA says that you must set up a ladder on flat, level surfaces. This is where people get really creative. Often, if you're working outside, you're going to come across the fact that almost nothing is level. Even a driveway has a 2% slope in it for the rain to run off. Almost nothing is level. And so people get very creative. And we know that creativity is the enemy of safety. And so they get creative and they're going to stack rocks, bricks, wood, whatever piece of debris they can find underneath a ladder. They're going to create a teeter-totter, and then they're going to climb 25 feet up the teeter-totter and hope that everything goes well. We know that that isn't the case, and this is where catastrophic accidents happen. When you couple that with overreaching, this is where people die. Now, even if you are on a perfectly level spot, overreaching will cause ladders to displace and tip over. This happens every single day, and as mentioned, these types of accidents are catastrophic. Why is it that we overreach? Let's get back to that path of least resistance. Do we know better? Have we all been taught not to overreach? The reason we do it is because we don't want to climb down the ladder, take the ladder, and move it to a new spot, and then climb again. So we all figure we have this built-in cantilever that God gave us, right? If I throw my leg out this way, then I'm cantilevered. I'm perfectly fine to be able to reach and do what I need to. Overreaching is a major issue in ladder injuries. We see this slide here in the center where this gentleman's overreaching an open staircase. Should he fall, it's not just going to be 3 or 4 feet. He's going to go a long ways down. It primarily happens in areas where people could get down and move the ladder. But for whatever reason, they're not doing that. Carrying objects that cause people to lose balance. So what does OSHA tell us about climbing and descending a ladder? 3 points of contact. If you're carrying objects, how are you going to be able to maintain 3 points of contact as you're climbing and descending a ladder? Serious accidents there again happen because as you're transitioning, if there's any type of weight shift or loss of balance, you and the object you're carrying are going down. Now, what are we taught to do? We know we've been taught to get up onto the surface that we're moving to and either have the items handed to us, lifted via a forklift or some other type of apparatus, or raised using a rope, some other way to get the items up there. Unfortunately, far too many of us are trying to pack things up ladders, which are causing us to lose our balance. Now, missing the bottom rung on a ladder is interesting. I've been in the ladder industry for 33 years now and did not know that this was a challenge until about 3 years ago. A large company came and visited us, our facility. They had some challenges on some things that they were looking for some safety solutions, and so they said, can we come and visit you and see your products and take a tour? And so of course we did that. And one of the things that we discovered, which was completely new to us, that 19% of all of their accidents were involving their employees missing the bottom rung while descending the ladder. And you might say, well, what's the big deal with that? It's 1 foot. Well, it is a big deal because fractured skulls, broken backs, broken hips, twisted knees, torn ligaments, ankles. Serious accidents can happen from missing just that bottom rung. We've all done this in our own homes. Anybody ever been going up and down a staircase that you've lived in the same house for 20 years and for whatever reason that day missed the bottom rung, or excuse me, the bottom step? We've done it. I don't know why, but it happens. So we've had some people guess, and there's still a debate on this, but some are guessing that it might be our peripheral vision that's telling us we think we're at the bottom when we're not. Or maybe we're just not paying attention. But this is a challenge. And lastly, using a ladder. So in the positive manner. You see here this young lady standing on somebody's shoulders, and yet on the other side of the tree there is a ladder there and available. Oftentimes, for whatever reason, and it's usually convenience, we'll grab something, some of us even chairs that have wheels on them, and we'll stand in that chair and change a light bulb or do whatever we need to, get something out of a cupboard. We're doing it out of convenience. There's a human nature side to this. People stand on tables, on chairs. So you might think, well, this isn't really all bad. Maybe if the ladder really is the problem, maybe what we should do is just not use ladders. I received a letter from a gentleman at Oakland Construction, it was a week ago. He wrote a really nice letter, and at the very end he had a caption that said, "Ladders are good, but ladders last." Now, some of you may be very familiar with the Ladders Last program. It was, I think it was Cindy DePrater from Turner Construction years ago came up with this program called Ladders Last. And essentially what it was is they were going to take all ladders off of the workplace and have a checkout system. And you were to find any other viable means to do the work. And if you couldn't find that, then you would go and check out a ladder for that specific reason, do the job, and then return it. Now, the things that you were supposed to maybe look towards was maybe using a JLG lift, a scissor lift, maybe some scaffolding. Although scaffolding has more incidents than ladders do, so you're going the wrong direction there. They're also they're also steel, and so non-conductivity is a problem because you have electrocutions that take place on scaffolding. So that created a whole new set of problems. What were people, so there was the new rule, but what do people do if there's not a ladder? And this is where people get creative. They're going to stand on something else. Now, I'll tell you what's happened in the industry for these companies that have gone to a Ladders Last program. Their ladder accidents have gone way down, right? Because the people aren't using ladders. But guess what's happened? Accidents in general have gone way up because you have people standing on barrels, you have people standing on pallets that they've tipped up on the side, and they're climbing pallets or anything that they can find, they're going to climb. There again, the creativity is the enemy of safety. Now this gentleman on the right that's putting the sign, "Think Safety First," I wonder, and it has to be that he just does not have the right piece of equipment, but if you notice, behind him is an aluminum ladder, and in front of him is a scissor lift, and yet he's standing on the railing putting up a Safety First sign. He probably didn't have either one of those pieces, were probably not the right one. He most likely needed a staircase ladder or something that would perform well in that situation. But if you take ladders away, you often have far more injuries. And so you might think, yes, this is the way to address the problem. The challenge is that it introduces a whole new set of problems. So is training the answer? First of all, I got to tell you that the American Ladder Institute is big on training. We've spent a lot of money in developing modules on ladder safety training. We promote those. We spend money promoting them. They are free of charge to anybody that wants to use them. They're on laddersafety.org, and you can go in, watch the module. You can take a pre-test, then watch it, and a post-test. Your supervisor can see your scores. They can have a record of who all's been trained. We're big on safety training. But I'm going to ask the question, is that the solution? We have a vehicle here. Most all of us took driver's ed. Years ago you didn't, right? You might have learned on the farm or something, but we now have driver's training. Has that helped vehicle accidents go down by having driver's training? Probably some. Interestingly enough, in 2016, there were more fatalities in vehicles than there were in 15. The trend is going up. Now, you might ask, why is that? Well, they've identified the reasons. One of them is alcohol consumption is up. Illegal drugs consumption and driving is up. Speeds are faster than they have been, and then you all know what the last one is, which is texting, right? So distracted driving. So even though we have vehicles that are much safer and more training than what we used to have, accidents are still on the rise. Can you imagine what the statistics would have been had we not had the innovation that we have in vehicles? So think about it. How many airbags do they now have versus 20 years ago? Blind spot indicators on your mirrors, backup cameras in almost every vehicle that you're in now. You see these sensors that keep you from colliding with the vehicle that's in front of you. The safety features go on and on and on. And the reason that they've done that in automobiles is because they're trying to do all they can to prevent injuries, and they are. They're preventing a lot of injuries. The statistics are going up because people are not following the laws. That's why they're going up. But thank goodness these innovations are there. What types of innovations have been made in ladders in the last 20 years? Let's compare ladders to the automobile industry. How many safety innovations have been made? I thought so. So, unfortunately, not enough, right? We have not kept pace with the rest of the world. If you look at all of the innovations and the things that have taken place in the last 20 years, when it comes to safety, almost every vertical is making leaps and bounds in safety design. In the hierarchy of safety design, the first thing you want to do is design out the risk. If at all possible, just eliminate it, design it out. If you cannot do that, what do? We guard against it. Unfortunately, many of us are down in that bottom level where we're relying on labels, relying on training, personal protective equipment. That isn't going to solve the problem that we have with ladders. What I'm going to do is take just a minute. I'm going to show you a couple of things that are being done in the industry. These ladders that we have here, we're going to leave to the OSHA Center as part of their a parting gift and a thank you for the opportunity to come and visit with you. I'm going to show you a few things that are being done in the industry, and then we're going to finish up on one last slide. I'm going to start with one of the most basic products, and that is a 6-foot A-frame ladder. Often people say, well, what could you do with a 6-foot A-frame ladder to make it safer? Now, something's missing. Can anybody tell me what's missing? Top rung. Our sticker holder is gone. Why would we take the sticker holder away? Because it is an invite to move to the top cap. So it serves no purpose other than to hold a sticker to say, don't stand on me, but yet it looks just like all the rest of the rung, and so it's kind of a little bit like putting the plate of cookies on the table and telling your 3-year-old, don't touch them, and you know what's going to happen. Another thing that's been done on this particular ladder, and you're not going to be able to see this, but you'll be able to hear it. It is audible and tactile. It has what's called a ground cue. Why would we have a ground cue? I told you about the 19% of ladder accidents that we learned about with this large company. The ALI just did a survey. It was sent out to 10,000 companies. We had 500 full responses. Of those 500 full responses, 50% of all those companies said the leading ladder cause of ladder accidents they had in the previous year was employees missing the bottom rung. So what does this do? It's audible and tactile. It teaches you that that's the bottom rung. A little bit of Pavlov's dog, right? So we're going to go up, we're going to do our work, and then come down. As we come down, what do I need to hear? That's what I need to hear. I know it's safe to step off the ladder. It's simple, but that could prevent injuries and save lives. Taking this away, the gateway to here, is going to prevent injuries and save lives. I don't know if you can see it or not. This top cap has a face-forward top cap. You notice that it's kind of grooved for your legs or knees to fit there. Why is it that way? It's to remind people that you are to always face forward on your ladder. Many people will climb an A-frame ladder and then turn sideways, and the ladder tips very easily this way. They're not designed for you to work on them sideways. Now, we don't have it here, but this ladder also comes in a version that has 4 legs that are leveling. It has ratcheting levelers, and you can put your toe on it, you can ratchet it down so that you can level the ladder up perfectly. What can be done to a ladder? A lot of things can be done. You see that slide that's up there on the screen? I want to show you a little bit about what's possible in extension ladders. These are where the catastrophics happen. You see here where the wood is stacked underneath. This is typical. Many of you have seen this. It's unfortunate. Think about this for just a moment. A 28-foot extension ladder. If the ground is off 1 inch on one side, by the time you get to the top of the 28-foot extension ladder, it's 19 inches out of plumb. 1 inch is down here, 19 inches out of plumb at the top. You're already out of the envelope of the ladder when you get to the top. A little bit of reaching one way, and where's it going? It's going down. So what's possible? I'm going to be careful here with our ceiling, but what's possible is that we can create outriggers that would give you a 600% increase in side tip stability. And I'm right there in the ceiling now. But you can see that this outrigger system is going to help keep, what do we know about people? Are they going to overreach even when they've been taught not to? We know that. So why don't we help protect the user from himself? That's what we need to do. We know we can train them and train them and train them, and yet human nature is going to take over. And so we're not going to be able to do that in here, but these are also leveling, as you can see in your picture. They'll adjust. So not only outrigging, which you see on almost all types of equipment, keeping a product from tipping over, but leveling. Let me see if I can do this without damaging anything here in the building. We talked a little bit about choosing the right ladder for the job. This particular ladder is 4 ladders in one. It's an A-frame ladder. The first thing that you will notice is that it's going to store smaller but we can make it that all popular 6-foot size, right? That's the most popular ladder size there is. Or we can also make it an 8-foot ladder size, very, very simply. So instead of just taking that one into the job site that we know may or may not be the right height, we're going to take one that allows him, you notice our top rung is missing here. He can stand on a platform, work very, very comfortably, and he has the right size of ladder for the job. What if he's in a staircase? Maybe we just turn it into a staircase ladder in the process, right? So he can just take one in and make sure, because human nature tells us he's not going to go back to the van and get the right ladder. He's going to do something perhaps that's unsafe. Now, I'm probably generalizing a lot here. There are people who do work safely, but there's many who the human nature just takes over and they quickly do whatever's easiest and most convenient. You might be wondering what this, well, there's two other things here I'm going to show you. First of all, when it comes to ladder leveling, and I have to be really careful here because I don't want to hit your sprinkler, but often when we're out, regardless where we are, if it's on our own home and we're doing Christmas lights, or if we're on a job site, the ground is unlevel. And so we showed what the human nature side is. We're either going to climb it with it leaning terribly to one direction, or we're going to throw something underneath. Well, what's possible, and you're not going to be able to see that, is if you were to put your toe there, you could create something that would level instantaneously. And so now, you can have a product in a matter of a second, which is designed and integrated to be able to give you leveling without the teeter-totter effect. Very, very simply, both sides of that can be done. Lastly, you might be wondering, well, what is this apparatus? So we talked about ascending and descending, that we need to have 3 points of contact. Most companies, in their own safety procedures, have said that you have to have, this is not OSHA, this is the company's safety procedures, that you have to maintain those 3 points of contact when you're working. And if you can't do that, then you need to put on a harness with a lanyard, and you need to be hooked to an engineered anchor point. So if this ceiling was, 5 or 10 foot taller than it is here, where would, and I needed to get up and work, and I'm going to follow my company's safety regulations, where would I find that engineered anchor point in here? I'm going to pretty much have to get up and do something that's going to break the rule. Now, that rule is for most companies 4 foot if it's a warehouse situation or manufacturing, 6 foot in general construction, and 8 foot that you need to have a guardrail and a midspan if you're up on scaffolding. So this particular product allows you to go up without a harness. It has one-way gates, so you're going to go in, and I would climb it, but with obviously not enough room in here, but one-way gates, you're going to go in, you have toe kick, midspan, 42-inch handrail. You're not required to have a harness and a lanyard in this case. I don't know if we have that slide. Maybe you had that slide up there. But this particular product is being used in the place of, in some cases, ladders, in other cases, scaffolding, where you could set up something in a matter of moments that would keep people from having to break their own rules, so to speak. An engineered anchor point in this situation here, not possible, not visible. In fact, rarely is there one that's directly over your head. And OSHA also tells us that we should not be anchoring to one that's to the side of us, because we create the pendulum effect. So those are some of the things that are possible with ladders. But I want to wrap up with one one final thought, and that is, let's skip to the last slide there. Many of you, are we there? Sorry. Many of you recognize this ship, the Titanic. Titanic set sail in 1912, and you all know what happened on April 14th. It was 4 days after its launch, a maiden voyage, that the Titanic struck an iceberg. Now, the Titanic was 4 times larger than the legal classification of ship, because at this point in time, ships were growing very, very quickly and the regulations hadn't kept up with them. The Titanic had 16 lifeboats on it, but as was mentioned, was 4 times larger than the largest ferry of which there was a legal classification. So consequently, when the Titanic went down, 1,500 people drowned out of 2,224 crew and passengers. All the swimming lessons in the world would not have changed this tragedy. It was equipment. They lacked the equipment. Now, in fairness, they followed the rule, the regulation. 16 was the max required, but they did know that the regulation was about to be changed. In fact, they made room for all of the lifeboats that they soon knew would be regulated, but chose not to put them on there because of the cost. They did also participate in fighting the regulation. Most of the shipping industry said, hey, we think having all these lifeboats on ships are going to cause people to fear that sailing is unsafe. And so they fought the regulation. We know that had the right equipment been provided, all of those people could have survived that tragedy. So we have a choice. We can do the same thing that was done in this case. We can follow the current set of regulations, and most are. Or we can change. We, as ladder manufacturers, can change. As facilitators or regulators, those who are purchasing ladders, those who are consuming them, who are buying them for their own consumer needs. CEOs of companies, safety professionals can all make the decision to make a change now, or we can wait. We can wait for the regulation, wait until enough people die, until enough people get injured, and when the law mandates it, then we can make the change. I submit that it's time for change. 2,000 people will be injured in a ladder accident today with 100 disabilities, and somebody is not going home today, ever. Their kids will be raised without a father or a mother, and it's time for change. Thank you.
Well, Bob, first thing is I'd like to say thank you to you, your staff, and UTA for putting on this symposium, and then all the tremendous work you do with OSHA to promote safety and health. I'd also like to thank Mr. Moss for his presentation today, and for Texo being part of this group, and for Shane and Scott be coming up here later to talk about their job sites and everything like that. On behalf of Region 6 Regional Administrator, Ms. Kelly Knighton, I would like to thank everybody and welcome you to the Ladder Safety Symposium. We appreciate everybody being here. On last count, I think we had about 35 people locally here in the room, and then we had about 90 that were online. So I appreciate everybody taking their time out of the day to participate in the symposium. Good. As we can kind of see on this slide right here, what we actually have is like there's too many people that are going to work just to earn a paycheck that just don't come home. And kind of Mr. Moss mentioned a little bit about that. But as we look at this slide, there's more than 4,000 people every year that go to work, that don't come home. And at least 50,000 more of those pass away or die from illnesses or injuries that they sustained while working on a job site in the past. Also, millions of others just suffer non-fatal injuries on the job site that they have to live with for the rest of their life. Before OSHA came into existence in 1970, there was 38 people every year or every day that died on a job site. Today, that number is down to 12, with probably twice as many people working in the workforce. However, that's still 12 people that we need to kind of look at to try to do something with. There's more work that needs to be done. And one of the reasons that we actually do have fatalities out there is what we're out here to talk about today, which is ladders. Because ladders can pose a problem on the job site. Here you can kind of see as we have the three of our typical types of ladders that are that we find out on a job site. The first one, of course, is going to be our portable ladder. That's one of those ones that you can move it, take it around wherever you go, extend it up to wherever you need to work with it. Like I say, it's just a portable type ladder. The second type we have there is a wooden job-made ladder. Those job-made ladders they're actually built on the job site. They're used up until the time that they're either no longer needed, or until a permanent fixture or a permanent ladder or stairway has been put in place, and then they're removed. And then the last one we have over there is a fixed ladder. Those are the type that you see on the back of buildings, going up at tanks, silos, any type of fixed structure where we actually have a ladder that is not movable. When we talk about the ladders, of course, some of the ones we talked about today is when we talk about portable, which is the most common one that we actually have out there. There are several types of those also, but there's really actually about two that are actually the two types. One is a self-supporting ladder, which is the ones you kind of see here, your step ladders, platform ladders, trestle ladders, and then you also have the non-self-supporting, which is your leaning type of ladders, which is your extension ladders. The main thing is with such a common tool that we actually have on the job site, a lot of people forget about the dangers of using this type of tool that can be. Ladders are probably one of the most recognizable or most used tool on a job site. They're used in retail establishments, construction sites, general industry, everywhere. There's probably millions of those used every day around the world. Such a task, just simple things such as getting up on the roof, washing or repairing windows, getting to the top of structures, getting to the top of tanks or vessels, entering a trench, exiting a trench, or just kind of reaching a shelf. We all need a ladder. But like any tool that's used incorrectly on a job site, they can actually be deadly. So when we actually look at the numbers that we actually have here, nationwide in 2016, we actually had 4 catastrophes. That's actually 3 or more people going to the hospital or having a fatality on the job site, and 94 accidents. Out of those 4 catastrophes, 94 accidents, we had 61 fatalities, 117 hospitalizations, and 3 amputations by working with ladders. And these can actually be included with such things as what was already mentioned, which is actually not setting the ladder up at a proper angle, not setting it up on a stable surface, not to having the ladder 3 feet up over the top edge of the landing wherever you're going to, not securing the ladder, overreaching the sides of the ladder, which again causes you to fall off the ladder or something like that. The other main reason we actually have fatalities is electrocutions or shocks. The main thing is what we're kind of seeing out there is the wrong type of ladder is actually being used where we actually have electric lines or where it's used around electricity. So what ends up happening is we're moving the ladders around on the job site, such as an aluminum ladder. The employee is hanging on to it, they move it into a power line, and then we have a fatality. The other way we actually see it out there is that maybe the ladder isn't necessarily the main part of what actually caused the fatality, but it actually played a part in it. Such as we have an employee that's working up on a step ladder. working on an energized electrical surface or electrical outlet. While he's up there working on it, he gets a shock, which actually causes him to fall. He falls off the ladder, and then we have a fatality. The shock wasn't what killed him, the fall off the ladder was. So we look at this data here. This is 2016. Just in Region 6, you can kind of see here that we actually had, in 2016, we had 10 fatalities and 10 hospitalizations just actually working off of ladders, on the 2015. You're 2016.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so 2015, total events for the region, 13 fatalities and 27 hospitalizations. And then when we actually look at the 2016 data for Region 6, that's when we have the 10 fatalities and then 10 hospitalizations. And then just looking at my office alone for the last 5 years, you can kind of see here 2016, we had 2 fatalities involving ladders. 2015 and 2014, we didn't have anything, but in 2013 and 2012, we had 1. Just 40 miles down the road in the Dallas office, in the last 5 years, they've actually had, you can see here, 2016, last year, they had 4 fatalities revolving ladders, 3 in 2015. 2014, they didn't have any, but then 2013, they had 1, and then 2012, they had 2. So we can kind of see that we actually have a lot of fatalities that are going on, and this is just one or 2 offices within the region, within this region, and out of 12 offices that we actually have here. And then when you sit here and look at nationwide, and you sit there and look at maybe all the fatalities we're actually having, or the injuries that we're having on ladders, you can see that we actually have an epidemic out there, or something that really needs to be looked at. Some of the fatalities I have in my office, we just kind of go over a little bit. 2012, you can kind of see here I had a 62-year-old gentleman, laborer, working on a job site. They had a job-built ladder on the job site. The ladder had been on the job site for 2 weeks. Nobody had inspected it. It had a tag on it that actually had an inspection tag, but nobody went over there and looked at it, signed off on it, that they had actually looked at it or did anything to it. And so what ended up happening is this gentleman was coming down the ladder, and as he was coming down the ladder, one of the rungs came off in his hand. When it came off in his hand, then he fell 13 feet to the concrete below. Died instantly on the job site. And like I say, that's something that could have been prevented just by going out there and making sure that we're inspecting our ladders. Our next one is 2013, out of my office. Again, we had a 54-year-old lead technician, air conditioning. He was going up to go work on a roof to replace an air conditioning system. They couldn't access the interior ladder well to get up to the roof because the building was closed. So what they did was the only thing that they could do. And they had a ladder on the back of their truck, 40-foot extension ladder. So what they did was they set it up to the building. Now, 40-foot, even though it says it's a 40-foot extension ladder, it only has like a 36-foot working length to it. Well, the area that it had to get up to was 35 feet, up to the roof. So they put up the ladder and everything like that, and then the angle that they had to put the ladder up to didn't make it very stable, and so when he was climbing up the ladder kind of shifted, bounced a little bit as it started flexing, and when it flexed, then he fell. And you can see here he fell 30 feet to the concrete. The next one we have is a 2015. 27-year-old laborer sandblasting inside of a water tank. What he was doing was actually just after he was working, he wanted to go get a drink of water. So he started climbing down the scaffold ladder that was inside there. They actually had some type of cable system that he was supposed to connect to. Been in there for a while, hot, dark, and everything like that. He started coming down the ladder, and he fell 35 feet to the bottom of the tank by missing a rung. 2016, last year, a 64-year-old technician repairing an overhead cable line. Had 2 gentlemen out there working side by side. They were up there working. While they're actually repairing the cable line and everything like that, they use a silicone to actually seal their splices and everything like that. So they were up and down the ladders, and what ends up happening is that silicone gets on top of the, gets on the rungs of the ladder. Well, this gentleman was working up there, told the gentleman beside him that he wanted to go down and get a drink of water. So he started down the rungs, and all indications are that as he was coming down, he slipped and fell 13 feet to the concrete below and died instantly on the job site. Again, last year, 52-year-old laborer. Basically what he was tasked with was actually painting the interior walls of a aircraft hangar. So while he was in there painting the walls, he'd come to a point to where he couldn't reach any further. So what he decided he was going to do is actually make him some type of scaffolding system so he could get up there and reach where he needed to. So what he did was he took a trestle ladder, put it on one end, and he did have a scaffolding platform board that he put on top of that trestle ladder, and he laid up on top of the stairs. And then what he did was, because he couldn't reach up any higher, he put an extension ladder up on top of that scaffolding system. So while he was up there working on top of that, then he fell 13 feet to the concrete after the whole makeshift system that he had there collapsed. So you can see, like, a lot of those, almost every one of those was preventable if we would actually had got the right ladder for the job, or actually just kind of waited, inspected, and done whatever they needed to do to actually make sure that ladder was safe. When we look at here, this is the top 10 violations across the nation for 2016. This includes general industry and also construction. If you can kind of see here, ladders it comes out at number 7. That's the one you have to double click.
No. There you go.
Click it again. There you go. You can see that ladders are number 7 on that for the top 10 violations, again, for both general industry and for construction. Go to the next one. And here we actually have the construction industry standards, or the ones that we actually were violated for just for the construction. And you can see here ladders actually moved up for number 3 on the construction side. One of the main things is when we come out to do an inspection on a job site, especially on a construction site, a ladder is one of the easiest things that we can actually see out there. And especially if we see somebody working up in an elevation, like up on a roof or something, there's got to be a ladder somewhere on the job site. So that's what we're going to go actually look at to see if it's actually been put up there correctly. So when we actually look at on the construction side, and we look at that it's number 3 on there, we're going to go ahead and look at what I did was I took the top 5 violations out of the ladders, out of the construction side, and we're going to talk a little bit about each one of those. Go ahead. Okay, so the first one here is putting the ladder 3 feet up over the top edge. So when we actually, again, that was kind of already mentioned, we need to make sure that's one of the easiest things out there, is to make sure that we have the right length of ladder to actually get us up over the top, and make sure that we actually have 3 feet up over the top of our landing and everything like that. What that does is actually gets the employee a handhold that he can grab hold of to where he can get off the ladder or to get onto the ladder safely. If it can extend 3 feet up over the top, then what we need to do is make sure we secure it, but we still need to provide some type of handhold for him to grab hold of when he gets up to the top or when he's getting off onto the ladder. Go to the next one. Intended purpose. Mr. Moss talked a little bit about that. The main thing which you kind of look at there is with a step ladder is actually, we see it out there all the time, which is a step ladder is actually used in a folded condition, folded up, leaning up against the side of a wall, and they're actually using that as an extension ladder. What you need to do is if you need an extension ladder, you need to go get an extension ladder, not use it the way it's not intended to be used. A step ladder is intended to be used with both legs folded out and locked. So it's in the locked position so it doesn't shift, move, or anything like that. The other thing is what we're seeing out there is we actually see extension ladders being used where they're actually being laid up on top of 2 step ladders, and then they put a plank up on top of that, and then they step on top of it to use it as a scaffolding board. Or what we actually seen also too is they've actually had 2 extension ladders lashed together, and what they're using it to go completely across the other side of a trench, and they use that just as a walkway to get over to where they're going to. So again, ladders need to be used for the purpose that they were intended. You can go ahead. I think we're number 3.
Oh, sorry.
Number 3, again, Mr. Moss mentioned this, top step. Top step of a step, or even the second step before the top, or the top cap of a step ladder is not, you cannot use that as a step. And it does. It has a warning sign right there. It says this step is not a step. So make sure we're actually not using it that way. Good. Again, making sure that we set them up on a stable surface so they don't slip, slide, or move out from underneath us or anything like that. Again, if we're going to have it up over the top of, or we're setting it up, a extension ladder up on top of a roof, it's too short, we need to make sure that we're actually tying it up. Or, like I say, then if you're trying to get on it and it's not tall enough and it's not tied up, then that ladder could shift or move or anything like that. And we actually had 2 that were actually for the top 5 position. You can kind of see here is, first off, we had defective ladders. In other words, we have ladders that are being used out there that are broken, they're missing a rung, the side rail is broken. Something is wrong with the ladder that should not be used on the job site. If you have a broken ladder or it's defective, you need to tag it as defective and get it off the job site, or destroy it or do something with it. If you just take it on a job site and throw it in the trash, what's going to happen is that somebody's going to walk by and say, who threw away this perfectly good ladder? And they're going to pull it out of the trash and they're going to be using it on the job site. So make sure we destroy it or get it off the job site. The other one, which was our shall not carry a load that could cause you to lose your balance. What we see out there, especially too on roofing work, we see the gentleman climbing up the ladder. He's got a big stack of roofing shingles up over his shoulder, and he's trying to climb up the ladder. And what ends up happening is he loses his balance or anything like that. What you need to do, make sure if you're going to be moving stuff like that, have some type of pulley system or some other way to get your equipment materials up to the top of the ladder. One of the things I did want to talk about is that NIOSH actually put out an app, which is just the ladder safety app. It's free. Just go to the App Store, and all you got to do is put in NIOSH ladder safety app. You can pull it up, and basically what this app does for you, it gives you a angle measuring tool. So when you do set your ladder up on a job site, you can put your phone right up to it, and it'll vibrate if it's actually not in the correct angle that it needs to be. Then what it also does too, it also has some different things that you can actually select on there, which actually gives you a selection tool for the type of ladder that you may need on the job site. Tips on how to inspect your ladder, how to properly set up your ladder, and then the proper use of a ladder. So like I say, it's a very good app that's out there. Please use it, because like I say, it's one of those, I think it's a very useful tool. OSHA does have our ladder resources that are online. We actually have some of the books that are actually out here today, which is the Fall Off the Ladders Can Kill. But if you're not here today, you can actually go online, download that, print it off, and there's also, of course, information on our website about ladders and everything else that you need to look at on your job site. Safety and health management systems. What OSHA had done is they took their safety and health management system, now what we call it is it's safe and sound. And really what we want you to do is actually make sure that the safety and health program that you're actually using on the job site is actually current to the job that you're actually doing out there. A lot of times what we actually see is when we go on the job site, somebody actually may have a safety and health program that they're using that is actually 2 years outdated, or from a different job site, different contractors or everything else going on, different types of work and everything like that. Make sure that the program that you're using out there matches the work that you're doing. Communicate with the subcontractors, communicate with your contractor out there to make sure that everybody's talking to each other. Make sure that because just for one thing is you want to make sure that you're not working in an area to where other contractors may be working, to where you may have overhead hazards, you may have any other type of hazards around there that you may want to remove your employees from. But you can see here the core elements. The main thing is management leadership. Starts from the top down. We need to make sure that the managers out there are the ones that are actually promoting the safety and moving that down to everybody else. You need to make sure your workers participate in that training or participate in your program. You need to get them to buy into it, to work with you. We need to do a hazard identification or hazard assessments on our job site to make sure that we're actually we got the proper tools to do the job that we're actually going out there to do. Hazard prevention and control, we just need to make sure that we're actually out there looking at everything and making sure that we're removing the hazards from the job site. Of course, education and training, we need to make sure we're educating and training our employees out there, training everybody on the job site. Again, we all need to look out for each other on the job site. Depending on what contractor we're doing, like I say, if there's 10 contractors on the job site, we all have to look out for each other. Program evaluation and improvement. There again, we need to make sure that the program we actually have is applicable for the job that we're actually out there doing. And then, of course, the communication education for the host employer that's out there, the general contractor, and all the subcontractors, staffing agencies, or whoever we actually have on the job site. OSHA Quick Takes. This is a free news app or newsletter that actually comes out bi-weekly from OSHA and actually gives you the latest and greatest news from OSHA, what's going on and everything like that. And if you actually had that coming to your email, then you would have known about this ladder safety symposium, because that was actually posted on the OSHA Quick Takes. Anything new that's actually coming up, it'll be on Quick Takes and you'll get to know it before anybody else. Currently, I think we have about 170,000 people that get that newsletter every 2 weeks. The National Ladder Safety Stand Down, or the National Safety Stand Down, is going to be actually May 8th through the 12th this year. I'm sure that UTA and OSHA will team together again to do something here at UTA, just like we did last year. This is our 4th year for actually doing this, and actually last year I think we had about 4 million people that actually participate in it. All we're looking for is for the employers to actually just take a little bit of time, take about 15-30 minutes, set along your job site sometime that week, and talk about fall prevention on the job site, about what we can actually do to prevent that, about what kind of equipment that we can actually use out there to make sure that we're preventing people from falling. And again, you can also talk about ladders. But just take a break and you can kind of log into that, and when you log into it and put your information in there, when everything's over with, you'll actually get a certification of participation. Next one. And the last thing I just kind of want to leave you with is just kind of take everything that you hear today, take about 15 minutes, 30 minutes, sit with your employees, talk about ladder safety on your job site. It's just something simple to do. Just make sure that we're actually using the correct ladder for everything out there. The main thing is plan ahead. If we plan ahead, we'll make sure that we actually looking at the job that we're actually doing, making sure we have the correct equipment out there for the job that we're actually going to do. And then again, provide the correct equipment that we actually have out there, that we need, such as provide the right ladder, provide the right length ladder and everything like that. And then train our workers. Make sure we're training our workers out there to inspect our ladders, make sure they know how to set it up correctly, and make sure they know how to choose the right ladder for the job that they're doing. The last thing is just the success of this symposium isn't going to be by however many people that we actually had logged on or how many people are here or in the locally with us. I think that the success of this symposium, I think, will be if we sit here and we look at our numbers next year, and if we see our fatalities and ladder usage is down, then I think we're making the right direction. So with that, I'd like to say thank you and have a safe day. Oh. One of the things I did want to do is introduce Mr. Basil Singh, who is come up from Houston South to take over the Dallas area office. So I'd like him to come up and just kind of say a few words about his office and what he's been wanting to do there.
Well, thank you, Jack. I appreciate it, and thank everyone for coming here. As Jack stated, that my office also has fatalities dealing with ladders. So now he covered all those things. Some more stated some important things for all of us. What Jack was talking about, those fatalities involve people that died. Those are somebody's father, brother, uncle, whoever they were. It's important to remember that part of it. But the most important thing to remember is that selecting the proper ladder for what you have to do, the work you're doing. Select the proper ladder, and most importantly, use it properly. And if we do those two things, we'll be okay. But it goes back to what you do. So there's plenty of ladders out there, all kinds. But select the proper ladder for your jobs, and then use it properly. I think that's important. And I thank you for being here. Appreciate your time.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, I have one. Somebody asked if we discussed the ladder inspection requirements.
We didn't cover those, but.
They just said, would you
Oh.
cover that? Would you talk about it?
Well, I mean, the inspection requirements are just going to be in the standards, which is basically they just need to kind of look over the ladder, make sure that it actually has the feet on it, make sure there's no cracks, broken rungs, broken side rails, or anything like that. Make sure that if it's an extension ladder, like one that actually extends out, make sure that both the feet are there to actually lock into both the locks are on there. Make sure the rope is on there. I mean, it's just an overall, just make sure that we're actually looking at the ladder, just inspecting everything for defects in it.
It's important that everyone inspect ladders prior to using it. Important to actually inspect it before use, and then look for defects, and then ensure the employees are using it properly, and that's important.
The NIOSH app, I think, also has a...
Yes, it has an inspection tool on there. It'll tell you exactly how you need to inspect your ladders. Anything else?
Is this presentation on the OSHA website?
I don't know how we were going to put it out
No, it'll
there.
be out on YouTube.
Okay, it will be on, I think the whole presentation will be on YouTube. Anything else? Well, appreciate it.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. I appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Shane Morrow, Safety Director with Austin Commercial here in Dallas. We're a nationwide company, and if you've worked any length of time in this industry, you'll find that you've heard about or have known someone that has had an incident related to a ladder. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, Todd Holtz at Texo here in Dallas had a whole host of us around the conference room and asked if anyone had a story they'd like to share about a ladder accident that they've experienced. And this particular ladder incident came to mind immediately. So I just wanted to share this, and hopefully it makes sense to you, number one, and number two, it drives the point home of how important it is that we understand how our leadership affects people in a day-to-day basis. So just want to ask that you take that seriously and see if you can take these lessons learned to your job site, to home, wherever you may be, and let's see if we can make a difference. So first and foremost, this incident occurred several years ago. The outcome was absolutely not favorable. This gentleman received a cracked skull and wound up in the ICU for quite a long stay. And anyone that you've known that's ever been injured on the job site, that's very impactful to you whenever you understand that their safety and health is in your hands, being a leader on a job site or in a company. So just want to express those concerns to you, and hopefully this makes some sense. Next slide. So here's I'm going to lay out the accident, or lay out the plan. This is what the plan was the individual was told to go to an IDF room and terminate some wires in a junction box. And to do that, he used a 10-foot ladder to gain access. Next slide. So here's some contributing factors, is that the J-box was off-center, the ladder, in that position. The ladder was placed against the wall. The J-box was in a beam pocket up in the roof of this room, in the ceiling, and the J-box was to the left of the beam pocket. So whenever the individual was standing on the ladder, he actually had to lean to the right to get up inside the beam pocket to gain access to the J-box. The individual may have exceeded the weight rating of the ladder due to his size, and then also the tools that he was carrying. And then also, which when we're talking about ladder use, we have a guy that was working alone, and to me, that's an absolute violation of our policy. And we want to make sure that people understand that when people are working at height, they really should not do it, whether on a ladder or anything else, alone. Next slide. Being that the J-box was off-center, the individual had to contort his body to fit up inside the beam pocket, and that caused pressure to the outside legs of the ladder. And what happened was the ladder came out from underneath of the individual, and he landed head first on the concrete below. Not an ideal situation at all, but there's some things that we took away from this that hopefully all of us can hope to eliminate this issue in the future. Next slide. Here's kind of a picture of a similar situation where we got the beam pocket up in the ceiling. The beam pocket's probably only about 16 inches wide. Your shoulders won't fit into that, just a normal person. So he had to climb the ladder, turn his body, and gain access. So it's an awkward position. And what occurred was that the ladder pushed away, and again, he landed head first on the concrete below. Some lessons learned taken from this. The crew leader, when I asked specifically, did we go out into the field and actually verify the conditions that we're putting the individual to work in? And that did not occur. So those conditions can be anything from obstructions, additional fall concerns, and to me, whenever I say additional fall concerns, what I'm thinking about is slab edges, the leading edge of a building, or a opening inside the slab, inside the building perimeter. So just want to highlight that. Energized electrical, anytime we're working around energized electrical, that is another issue that we absolutely need to take into consideration. Stored energy could be that the plumbers are pressurizing the pipe inside the building, so we need to consider those things. And then housekeeping is absolute for every condition on the job site to be safe. We have to have good housekeeping, but when we're talking about working on a ladder, accessing the ladder up and down, and if we're working in conditions that's not clean, that is going to contribute to falls, absolute. And then another thing that can be is other trades working in the area. We can't have people accessing the same area you're in and can knock you off the ladder. Being on the other side of a door, I've seen people set ladders up in front of doors and then get knocked off the ladder because they didn't think about somebody coming through the door. So those are some things, some physical characteristics that we need to be concerned with. And we also might need to consider that a ladder may not be the right tool for the job. That absolutely, in this case, we probably should have set up a scaffold instead of the ladder, and the scaffold would have given the individual the right access without putting pressure on the outside legs of the ladder. So really, that's one thing. Now, choose the correct staff based on experience for the task. And I'm going to tell you something about the human mind. This is how we all function. When we have done something, put ourselves at risk, and we've done it successfully, right? Whenever we have put ourselves at risk, conducted certain tasks, and there was no negative consequence, right? That reaffirms to us that what we've done is safe. So if you do the same activity over and over and over, which is the way human beings work, we continually put ourselves at risk, we continually build up this false sense of security that this unsafe behavior that we're being told is not right. Well, to be perfectly clear, our brain doesn't work that way. There's no negative consequence associated with the bad behavior, so therefore we tell ourselves it's safe. And if that's one case. Now the other case is if you don't have enough experience to understand the hazards associated, that's another contributing factor, and that in this case was absolutely that. We had a young person, hadn't spent a lot of time on the job site, so he had no idea about the hazards of working on that ladder and then that ladder coming out from underneath of him. Now somebody my age climbing a ladder, I should know from experience that whenever you put yourself at risk like that, things will happen. So that's something I want to talk about and want to get you to understand that when we're choosing people for the task, let's understand their level of experience and the associated risk with the task. Additional is avoid working alone. When we're working alone, there's a lot of things that can happen. Just on a health-related basis, a seizure, a heart attack, anything that didn't know existed in the first place can occur on a job site. So if we're working alone, we really should avoid that. And additionally, if we're working at height where we may have the potential to fall, we should not be alone. So those are the things I wanted to talk to you about. And I also want to talk about leadership. And the bottom of the slide says, crew leaders should trust but verify. When we have put our crews in place to work in the field, we should go back and verify that they're working safely like we've asked. And another thing that we need to do is also check our shadow we're casting, right? So what's not said, or what is said is heard, but what's not said is also heard. So what I want to say about that is, if I'm your crew leader, if I'm a foreman, superintendent, crew leader, whatever, and I talk to you about getting certain tasks done, but I don't talk about safety, I've told you that safety is really not that important, whether I said it or not, right? That's what you heard, because the only thing I'm talking to you about is production. So let's examine the shadows we cast, and let's examine what we're saying and what we're not saying to our people in the field or people at home. And let's let them understand that safety is very, very important to us, that their health and livelihood is absolutely very important. And let's make a difference out there. I want to challenge all of us to examine our shadow and say the right things when we're talking to our people. Thank you all.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, UTA. Thank you, Bob, Ryan, Jack, Shane, everybody for putting this together. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that this is a necessary part of the construction business anyway. Todd, thank you for asking me to be here. I appreciate it. I was asked to come in here and provide a user or contractor perspective of this particular topic, and I can tell you from this point that pretty much I'm going to be giving you a recap, because as everyone's talking about the issues that we have and the issues that you see with ladder safety, I'm sitting there checking them off. Yep, we got that. Yep, we got that. I am Scott Sears. I am the safety director for Walker Engineering here in Dallas. I actually got into safety a little bit backwards. I got into it from the insurance business. The company I work for put together safety programs for very large projects, wrap-ups of all different kinds. So the things I learned from this, I didn't get from the front end, I got it from the claims side. I saw how much the claims portions of ladder injuries cost, and it's quite extensive. But that laid the foundation for everything that we're doing at Walker Engineering right now. Which way do I point this?
That's coming.
First things first about us, we are an electrical contractor. We have about 1,600 employees. Ladders are an everyday part of our work. We have electrical division, network division, automation, service, industrial. Our employees are using portable ladders every single day, and a lot of them. In fact, we have over 1,000 different ones that we have in use. Pretty much everything you see over there and more is things we have in use, from the step ladders, the straight ladders, step stools, trestle ladders, tripods, podiums, extensions. We try all different kinds of things to keep people from hurting themselves when they're working with ladders. We've gotten to the point nowadays where it's not so much that our injuries come from falls. We don't have that, thank goodness, and I hope that doesn't continue. That's what I saw early on in my career in other places. In fact, I had people who fell who would put extension ladders down on a sheet of ice, and it would slide down early in the morning in Tennessee, and the gentleman bear hugged the ladder as he rode it down, and the side rails crushed his wrists. They absolutely mangled him, and it caused him to basically end his career in the construction industry. The sad thing in that I saw, the human side of it, is the gentleman got a $45,000 or $50,000 claim settlement in that particular state. You could buy out claims, and the first thing he did when he got his money was bought himself a truck. So his career is pretty much over from being directly involved with the ladder incident, and I don't know how he ended up, but it can't be good. The ladder issues that we do have are, I thought I would surprise a lot of people with some of these things, but evidently not. Wherever Ryan is, you were talking about descending ladders. That was us. That is us. That's the things that we've had primarily at Walker Engineering. It's not people falling from them, it's the positions they get into while they're on top of the ladders, and it's coming down. We've had, over the last 5 years, probably 5 or 6, maybe one a year, of people either hyperextending their knee or spraining their ankle from coming down. So I like the step idea. I think it's a good idea. I think it'll work. But the things that are going on in construction personnel's minds as they're coming down a ladder is anywhere but the ladder itself. Hopefully they're not carrying things. A lot of times they are. You've seen them. You know they are. I would love to tell you today that we're perfect in the way we approach ladders and the things we're doing and the things that our employees are doing. That would not be a true statement. With everything we're doing, and those of you that have employees in the field, probably you can identify with a lot of this as well. The second issue we have with them, and thank goodness we haven't had any falls, but we have strains from overreaching, is our network group in particular. They're going up and down, moving cable, putting it in cable trays all day long, and they have a tendency to get a little bit lazy sometimes on getting down and moving their ladder 2 feet over or whatever, so they'll reach as far as they can. I worry about falls with that, but at least there's no force. On the electrical side, we have people that are installing things sometimes, and they have to apply a little bit of force. And when they get their bodies out of line, it makes it very easy for them to get back strains and shoulder strains and things along those lines. So the ladder issue itself for Walker Engineering, for us, it's not that bad. The easiest part of this is buying the right equipment, and we do. As I mentioned, what we call pilot a lot of different things on the ladders themselves. So having the right equipment is not a big deal. Getting them inspected, I would like to say we're pretty good at that too. I think we do okay on that. I think we have shortcomings every now and then, but on a regular basis, I'll see ladders get returned to the warehouse where they've already been chopped up and they're being disposed at the warehouse. We want to count them so that we know how many that there are. But we do okay on training. I think it's really not that hard to train somebody to use ladders properly. Getting them to use them properly is sometimes the issue, and that's not where we excel. For example, these are pictures of one of my people from several years ago. You can obviously see a number of issues with this. The most important being is he's got himself backed up to a floor opening, which is not a good situation. He's not outfitted at all properly. His shoe's untied. I don't know if you can see that or not. And to me, most important, or one of the most important things on that is the gentleman's talking on the telephone. He's got it cradled up against his shoulder. So the things that people do, if you think all they're doing is the work that they've got in front of them, that is not the case sometimes, the things they do. Everything you see, everything I've mentioned there is against our policy, and he's taken down and counseled about that. But with 1,600 employees, we have people that do things like this occasionally. I'm sorry about the clarity of this picture. This actually is one of our subcontractors on our data side that's doing exactly what I talked about, which is putting cable in tray, and clearly she's reaching too far out to the side. It's an accident waiting to happen. This actually is not an employee of ours. This gentleman was, well, go back one. This gentleman was working on our HVA system right outside my office. And clearly we can't let that go, so I went down and had a conversation with him, brought him down, and just ironically, all the people you're going to see, the 3 so far and the 1 more that's coming, every one of them, we talked to them about, do you not know how you're supposed to use this, what you're supposed to do? Guess what their answer was every single time? They know. They have an idea. There's a couple, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Go to the next one. And I would love to say this doesn't happen a lot. I don't think it does either, but this was about 3 weeks ago on one of our projects. So it's current today that we still have people that are doing the wrong things. There's always circumstances involved. If everything's very easy, they got the right equipment, the access, like Shane was talking about, is perfect, everything goes fine. That's not a problem. It's just the reality is there's always little variances that occur. Now, at this particular project, this was doing the punch out of one of our job sites. And this gentleman's foreman told him to go take care of one little issue that we had, and he's a good hand. He's going to do what he's told by his foreman, so he's going to get what he has available and go to work. That's what he did. So he's got a very long A-frame ladder leaned against glass with nobody there watching it. By the way, you mentioned people there that hold the ladders and everything. In my experience with that, because we've experimented with that too, but probably their primary job when they do that is peeling the stickers off. That seems to be what happens the most. Or they practice their tattoo art, so, just stuff like that. So go ahead. So what I want to do was tell you what we're doing today. We've tried a number of different things, and we still do. I don't want you to think any of these are not true. We've done the suspensions, we've done the terminations, we've painted on. This is the termination step if you get on this one. I've told them the horror stories. We've given them graphic photos of things, which I'm not a big fan of, but I'm going to try a lot of different stuff. We obviously talk about the compliance issues, about what OSHA has to say about this, and nothing there worked to our satisfaction. There was nothing there that is the silver bullet that kept all this from happening. So we decided to take a different approach. Go ahead, Bob. We have not given up on inspections and watching our people and everything, but it's finally dawned on us that with 1,600 people and 25 safety people, we're not going to be there all the time. It's just not going to happen that way. So if that was our goal, was to catch them doing something, that is a model that is made for failure. It's not going to happen. It's very convenient for some people in the construction industry. That's your job. That's safety's job. Where were y'all? We had an incident happen. We had an injury. Where were you? But there's way more to it than that. So we've changed our focus on purpose, and it takes a while to change the culture in this manner. But we've moved, or we're in the process of moving, it's probably more accurate, from the safety cop mode to the leadership approach. Now, that's probably nothing new to any of you, but in the way we're doing it and with our employees, it is quite a bit different. We don't want to be the negativity cops on the job site. We're not there to punish people. The construction industry sometimes does see that. As Shane mentioned a minute ago, we give a substantial amount of time to developing our leaders. And for us, our leaders is our superintendents at the job site. We've already got our executives. We're good at the C-suite level. It's going down where we're finding that where we have our challenges. But getting our superintendents engaged, which they've done a phenomenal job for the most part, and then getting down to our foreman level, which typically when you hire foremen, they're just hands that have been showing up. They do decent work. They come to the job site, congratulations, you're now a foreman. So we're giving a lot of time and attention to developing them and telling them that the safety deal is absolutely a big part of what you do. You are the person that has the biggest influence on an employee on a day-to-day basis. You've got a crew of anywhere from 3 or 4, maybe to 10 or 15. You're going to see them more than anybody else. So if we can reach you and get you to understand everything we're talking about, not just tell you what the rules are or have you sign a document, but have you understand what this means to our company, then we'll have a better opportunity for getting that to our employees. Now, to do that, we do a couple different things. We do not at Walker look at safety as a standalone objective in the company. It's not. I know that that's how a lot of us think, that's how I used to think, but we're tying safety into everything we do. So that doesn't mean that we're starting with the safety moment. We do those too, or the toolbox talks, or the meetings, or have people come in, or the training, or everything. We're actually showing them. When we get with our foreman groups, we'll sit down and talk to them about how our company has done on their production, and we show them the metrics of our most successful supervisors, whether it's foremen or superintendents, from a production standpoint, also happen to be our most successful safety managers. And we spend a lot of time on that correlation. So our objective with our foreman is, if you want to do well, make sure you're covering safety. If you do safety, it will correspond that your quality and your production will rise up as well. That's usually with them, that's a unique lesson, because what they've heard in their life, what they think they need to be successful is push, 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 push all the time. So the safety, quality, production component is very big within our organization. We like to think that our coaching and accountability is much, much better. It's much more effective to getting us to get people to use ladders right than anything else we can do. Go ahead. I mentioned that the foreman and the superintendents are our keys. That's the ones that are our job one for us, reaching them. Clearly, we still do the training and everything that we need to do, the inspections. But I want you to know this before I go, that what I just explained to you works for a whole lot more things than just ladders. The safety, you know, the people that are in the field, they always look to standards and everything, and we're trying to shift them, well, shift's not the right word, probably get them to open up their mind to the possibility that there's more than just regulation. If you'll take care of people, regardless of whether there's rules or regulation or not, you're going to be far ahead of the game, and they're starting to get it, so it does apply to everything. Bottom line is, as I showed you a minute ago, from our picture 3 weeks ago, I still have issues. These things still pop up sometimes. I would prefer that they not, but they do. But all in all, our ladder incidents, knock on wood, has been very low. I do believe, and you create a lot of your own luck. But, you know, some of the things I can't explain. People that are leaning too far, or, you know, how come this guy missed a step, tore his meniscus, and this guy just was sore for a couple days. There's some other factors that are human factors that we can't get to all the time. But keep your crews safe. Don't worry about the rules and regs so much. You need to know them, you need to follow them, you need to take care of them, but there's more to safety than that. But what we found in the bottom line is that when we take this approach, our managers are doing a much better job at their jobs. They're making us more money, and we're getting fewer callbacks, and we're getting less people hurt. So everything we do, we talk about safety, whether it's ladders or something else, has those quality and production benefits. That's it. Thank you. Bye.
I have a couple questions that came in, and we'll take some time for questions from the audience here. Any questions in here? And then I'll read these that I received on the website. Anybody have any questions for our speakers? Oh, okay. So the questions I have, and I need to maybe have you come up and answer this. One was labels. Maybe you can answer that, Ryan, on labels. What can be done to make the labels stick longer or stay longer? Is there anybody looking at that? You're going to have to come up here.
The challenge that we have in most cases with labels is they're all over the outsides of ladders, but then when you slide them in and out of a truck or any type of surface that you're going to rub against, they're going to end up getting pulled off. I know that there are some initiatives underway to try to move more of those internally inside of a rail of a ladder, and just to keep the branding ones on the outside. If the branding ones come off, so be it. It won't matter. There have been some discussions on perhaps some plastic shields that would go over the top of those. So far, every solution, and it would be nice to be able to put them on the inside. It makes them a little bit more difficult to read. I'm not sure if anybody is reading them because there's so much that it's there, but most, short of moving it to the inside, all the rest of them require some type of financial outlay. I do know that many companies will replace them for you if you they'll send you new ones. Unfortunately, some of the companies are just saying, well, if your stickers are gone, you need to replace your ladders. I disagree with that approach, but the best thing you can do is on those inspections have some extra labels. They can go on very, very quickly, but that's really the best advice that I can give at this point right now.
Another question you may not be able to answer, but the ladder that you had that has the cage at the top, the last one
Yes.
somebody asked about how much that would weigh.
54. This particular one right here
Yes.
is 54 pounds.
54 pounds.
Yeah, now it comes in many sizes. That's what we call a 4-footer, because it's a platform height, but 6 and 8 and 10. And then also you saw the one in the slide that was completely adjustable in 1-foot increments, and that one weighs 120 pounds. That goes up to 14 feet. So.
Very good. All right. Right now, that's all the ladder questions. I had one for OSHA. I don't know who wants to answer it for OSHA. The question on OSHA was, what does it take to be qualified under the OSHA standard to repair ladders? It says that it has to be a qualified person. What is anybody want to answer that one for OSHA? Okay, Basil.
Wow. That's a good question. I don't think OSHA differentiate whether or not someone, who's going to be that person, but it's the manufacturer who makes these ladders, so therefore only the manufacturer will be able to do those repairs per se.
It says if the last rung of a 6-foot ladder, does that change my load capacity?
Oh, if I stand on the last rung of the 6-foot
Oh.
ladder, the last rung you can't stand on, right? But if you stand on it, for sure it's gonna change, it doesn't change the capacity of the ladder, it just changes stability, correct? I don't wanna misstate it, but you're changing stability, not the load rating, so you shouldn't stand on it, first of all, but if you're gonna do that, your issue is balance and the way you're distributing the load on the ladder, not the rating. So hopefully that answers that question.
Oh, saying taking it out.
Oh, but, okay, taking it out. Does that change the rating of the ladder?
No.
Ryan says no, so the ladder's perfectly safe and meets the rating. In fact, I think he said during his presentation that the ladder was still rated the same, even though they've lightened the materials and made some design modifications. Okay. Any questions from the audience here?
I've got one of them. Does ALI and ANSI collaborate on ladder standards in the industry?
Yes.
So let me ask, you want to come up?
Yes.
Sorry to give you so much exercise, but, yeah.
So the American Ladder Institute is actually the ones that fund the ANSI process. Now, we have a facilitator called Smith Buckland who helps that because we all have our day jobs, but we fund that process. And then, of course, there's many people that are involved that are outside of the industry, some engineering firms that are a part of these committees, and they're the ones that go through and do all the work. The standards are now on a update schedule from, our goal is from 3 to 5 years. Some of them it's been as old as 10 or 12 or even 15 years old, but we would like to see those updated at least every 5 years, if not sooner than that. But we work hand in hand. That's one of our primary missions, is to make sure that we have current standards.
Okay.
Any other questions? Let's see, yeah. Something comes in here, you have to read, I can't read it up there. All right, while we're waiting for that, I just want to thank everybody for coming out today and thank all those that are online watching this. We will be making this available as YouTube online. The whole edited version will be available online. We'll take out all the little hiccups, but we will provide this on YouTube for you. We should have it up fairly soon. We had a lot of requests for slides. If everybody is okay with me sharing the information you shared today, it's going to be online anyway. So if you don't mind, we had a lot of requests for people to share. So I think there was a lot of interest from the people that have watched this. So I am open to, yes?
We will be having a link on our website so you can easily find this once we.
Okay. So if you look at our website for UTA, we will have a link on that website so you can access the information readily, as well as on YouTube. So we will get you there one way or another. I would just like to take time to thank everybody that participated. We thank the American Ladder Institute and Ryan for taking the time out to come and share his information with us. I'm really thankful for Texo for sharing, and always the support that we get from OSHA. I think we had a lot of expertise in the room and a chance to really give some knowledge to everybody and an opportunity to share and make ladders a lot safer. I think there's a lot of learning that can be done. It's not through training, but just awareness of using the right ladder for the right job, using it properly, and using it safely. And a lot of times it's, as we said, our human nature is to take shortcuts, and those shortcuts get us in trouble. So I would, again, thank all the people from Texo, OSHA, and ALI, and just really appreciate all of you coming out today to support us and trying to get out this safety information. Thank you very much.